They're just like the Muslims.
They act just like Muslims.
Are the Coptic Orthodox Muslims? So, really, before we get into what is the meat of this topic, I would like to discuss something that is kind of small but really important, which is that online, a lot of people, when referring to the Coptic people, they'll say, well, these Coptics are this, or these Coptics did this. And really, by the same token, then I would point out, would you say these Arabics did this? Would you say these Spanishes did this? Coptic denotes the language, not the people. When referring to the people, should use Copts, right? So these Copts did this, these Copts are this. And, really with that little bit of grammar IQ in mind, let's get right into the video. So what is a dhimmi? That's really being thrown out so much. So a dhimmi, under Islamic rule back then, would be someone or even a group of people who would sell out their faith, sometimes their own people, for status, authority from persecution so they wouldn't get persecuted, and luxury, right? So then it's really one of the biggest insults you can give to a Middle Eastern Christian or any Christian in general, because what you're essentially saying is that, okay, well, you're putting Islam and your own self above your faith and your people. So you're a traitor, like a tax collector to the Jews. Are the Coptic Orthodox, with this in mind, dhimmis and or even the same as Muslims at that point? Well, let's think about this biblically, genetically, historically, and then, okay, well then, who even are the real Muslims? So from Genesis 10, 1 to 5, 11, 26 to 32, and 1 Chronicles 1 to 28, this outlines the genealogy starting from Noah to Shem, Ham, Japheth, Arphaxad, Mizraim, Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael. And really, if you focus on Mizraim, who the Hebrews used to denote the Egyptians, anyone who came from the land of Egypt, right? Like, for example, in Psalm 105, it's a word used. In Isaiah 19 to 6, he'll use an abbreviation, Misr, which turned to actually in Arabic, Masr later on. There's a clear distinction between those who hail from the land of Egypt and those who are Arab. So if you are Egyptian, you cannot be Arab. Okay, then let's cement this genetically and see that the Copts are almost exactly completely the same as the ancient Egyptians, right? The closest. So you can see down there in that yellow box, that K5 genetic marker, that is from the Coptic people. So, they blow the Muslims out of the water genetically, and it shows how even, the Muslims don't have any claim to the land besides the simple fact that they invaded. So we've demolished this biblically and genetically. Now, historically, there was a pagan Egypt, Islamic Egypt, but not many people know about the Christian Egypt. So the Christian Egypt involved St. Mark, obviously spreading Christianity. A few hundred years later, becomes fully Christian. But after the schism, the Chalcedonians became the religion of the empire, and the non-Chalcedonians, which were the Egyptians, were without the empire and actually oppressed by the empire sometimes. And really, you can get into more of this theological debate on other channels like Apostolic Orthodoxy and Lion's Den, and I'll do a few videos on it probably in the future. Not being the religion of the empire, the Egyptians had no chance against Islamic forces. They were likely to be invaded by them as well. So then, okay, how did it all start? Well, it all started with this actual Byzantine governor named Al-Muqawqis. And Al-Muqawqis, like any average middle-aged man, hated his day job. So he dealt with the people that rightfully resented him, and he also resented them and oppressed them. So he came up with a plan. And this plan was to sort of sell out the Egyptians, because it's not like they were his people, and it's not like he liked them anyway. So he sold out Egypt to the Muslims. And it had nothing to do with the Egyptians, because obviously they didn't have any of that governmental control. And, when people say, well, the Byzantines were so based, they defended against Islam, and, oh, they were the Roman guards, right? Really, they were the ones who defended Islam. They brought them into Egypt because of their differences and let them do as they wished. So when you talk about people who are kissing up to the Muslims, again, you could cite Byzantines and the Romans. So then we've demolished this fact that the Copts are, supporters of the Muslims, even so historically. Okay, well then, did we just lie down after that? Well, no, right? We had early revolts, the Bashamian revolts, early farmers' riots, and, land territory disputes. But unfortunately, when we were outnumbered army-wise and government-wise. We couldn't do much, right? So we eventually, it went from 90-10 and then 50-50, Christian Muslim-wise, till it is 80 to 20% today. So then we weren't living in luxury either. We were forced to wear heavy crosses at one time, right? To which they would leave blue marks around our necks. So they would call us, the Admo Zera, right? Or the blue boned, to kind of make fun of us for that fact. And then they also cut out our tongues for speaking our native language, which is Coptic, so that it fled to the church. So it's now liturgical language primarily. We couldn't even speak our own language in the land. Then, with all of this in mind, who is the real Muslim when we say the word Muslim, right? Okay, well, Jay Dyer, as you can see, is a very famous YouTuber in the Christian sphere, and he's sort of polemicist when it comes to talking about these sorts of issues, right? So I would say, okay, polemics are fine, and we're dealing with a polemic topic, polemic issue, but really, when it's all that you have, when it's all slander and polemics, it's all rhetoric, then where is the actual argument? So then I would say, if you want to address the Coptic Orthodox, do it theologically. Of course, some rhetoric can be thrown out in the debate, but when it's all you have and it's all you're resorting to, then really, are you no better than a Muslim as well, then, at this point? So another claim made by the Eastern so-called Orthodox, for example, Kai, or Orthodox Shahada on YouTube, said that we barely have any theologians, right? We kind of addressed Islam maybe once back then, but after that, we kind of let it go. And as you can see, this is just from the medieval ages. We had before and after more theologians. These are theologians that all disputed Islam. And of course, we couldn't just go out and say, well, Islam sucks, right? Without getting absolutely slaughtered. We really had the best resources to address this issue. We were the closest to it. We were being oppressed by it. So then I want to address one final thing, which is sort of an American effect, and this has nothing to hold against the Americans, but just the culture, is that we kind of just think and judge first before trying to evaluate it. So here, people will see, okay, well, they wear black, they speak Arabic, right? So they're the same as these Arabs, as these Muslims, which is completely incorrect, not only on this video, but rationally. I could even levy the same claim towards the Eastern so-called Orthodox and say, well, okay, you guys were oppressed by the Russians, the communists at one time, and there were Russian Orthodox as well. Why couldn't I just say, okay, well, Russians are all communists. They're all atheistic communists that hate Christians. It really doesn't follow. A lot of non-argumentation falls into this and into our culture, but we have to be aware that this is not the right way to address theological disputes. So with this, I want to ask everyone to like, share, and tune in for the rest of the videos.